The night the city forgot how to breathe, he noticed her. It was past 9. The kind of hour when office lights stay on only for people who have nowhere else to go. Glass towers reflected exhaustion instead of ambition, and rain smeared the streets into long, trembling lines. From the top floor of a financial firm that ruled numbers the way kings once ruled land, a man stood alone by a window, jacket still on, tie loosened like a silent surrender. He had closed billion-dollar deals, laid off hundreds, with a steady voice, and learned how to look calm while everything inside him stayed empty. Loneliness had become his routine companion, and tonight it clung tighter than usual. When he finally left the building, the cold hit him like a reminder that success didn't come with warmth. He walked instead of calling a driver, letting the rain soak his shoes, as if discomfort was the only thing that still made him feel real. That's when he saw her through the glowing windows of a small grocery store that stayed open out of stubborn hope rather than profit. She stood at the counter, shoulders curved inward, holding a can of baby formula like it weighed more than it should. Her hair was tied back hastily, her coat thin and tired, and in her arms was a baby wrapped in a blanket that had seen too many washes. The baby slept peacefully, unaware of the storm brewing in the mother's chest. The cashier's face was apologetic but firm. The mother nodded again and again, whispering words the glass couldn't carry. Then she did the thing that made his chest tighten, in a way no market crash ever had. She turned around and slowly placed the formula back on the shelf. No drama, no tears, just quiet defeat. He didn't know why he stopped walking. He didn't know why his hand trembled as he pushed the door open. He had spent years convincing himself that other people's problems were not his responsibility. But something about that moment cracked the shell he had built so carefully around his heart. Her name was Sarah, though he wouldn't learn that until later. All he knew then was that she was trying to leave with empty hands and a full burden. He watched as she adjusted the baby on her shoulder, whispering comfort even though she had none for herself. The cashier avoided eye contact, ashamed of a system that forced him to choose rules over compassion. The man stepped forward almost without thinking. He paid for the formula, then for groceries she hadn't even dared to bring to the counter. Bread, milk, diapers. A few things no parent should have to choose against. When she realized what was happening, her eyes filled with panic before gratitude. Pride and desperation fought inside her, and desperation was winning. She tried to refuse. Her voice shook. She explained she would find a way, always did. He smiled gently, a skill he had lost years ago, and somehow remembered now. He told her it was nothing, that she was doing something far more important than anything he had done all day. Outside, the rain had softened. She thanked him again and again, words tumbling out faster than her tears. He watched her walk away into the night, holding that small bag of hope like it was fragile glass. He stood there long after she disappeared, feeling something unfamiliar bloom in his chest. That should have been the end of it. A kind act, a brief human connection, then back to the lonely height of success. But it wasn't. That night, he couldn't sleep. Numbers blurred on the ceiling of his penthouse. He thought about the baby's peaceful face, about how close hunger had come to that innocence. He thought about his own childhood, tucked away behind years of luxury. His father had worked 2 jobs. His mother had stretched meals until they barely resembled food. He remembered nights when hunger hummed softly in his stomach, and how his parents pretended not to hear it. Somewhere along the way, he had forgotten that version of himself. The next day, he found himself standing outside the same grocery store at the same hour. He told himself it was coincidence. Then the next week, and the next, he started noticing how many people came close to the edge and quietly turned back, how often dignity masked desperation, how invisible struggle really was. He learned Sarah's story slowly, not from questions, but from listening. She was a single mother after her husband died in a workplace accident. Promises of compensation dissolved into paperwork and silence. She worked 2 part-time jobs, neither offering stability, both draining her strength. She skipped meals so her baby wouldn't have to. She smiled because the world expected it, not because she felt it. He began helping in small ways at first. Grocery cards slipped into her bag, rent paid anonymously when eviction loomed, a used but reliable stroller left at her door. He never wanted gratitude. He wanted to understand why helping her felt like saving himself. At work, his life began to fracture in unexpected ways. Meetings felt hollow, profits felt meaningless. He watched executives argue over decimals, while families like Sarah's balanced on the edge of survival. The disconnect made him restless, then angry. He started questioning policies he once enforced without thought. He started pushing for employee support funds, for ethical investments, for programs that didn't just look good on paper. People noticed the change. Some admired it. Others warned him he was losing focus. But focus, he realized, was exactly what he was finding. Months passed. Sarah found steadier work through a contact he quietly arranged. She gained confidence, then hope. Her baby began to laugh, a sound that felt like forgiveness. She never knew the full extent of his involvement, and he preferred it that way. Watching her stand taller was enough. One evening, she invited him to a small birthday gathering for her child. Nothing fancy. A homemade cake, a few balloons, laughter filling a modest room. He almost declined, afraid of crossing an invisible line. but something told him this was where he needed to be, as he sat on a worn couch. Holding a baby who grabbed his finger with surprising strength, something inside him broke open completely. He realized how alone he had been, how success had insulated him from connection, how wealth without purpose had starved him in ways money couldn't fix. That night, he made a decision that would ripple far beyond either of them. He stepped down from his position months later, shocking the industry. People called it madness. He called it necessary. He used his resources, knowledge, and influence to build programs supporting single parents, providing emergency assistance without shame or bureaucracy. He partnered with stores, clinics, employers. He built systems that caught people before they fell. He never told his story publicly. He didn't need applause. Years later, Sarah stood on a small stage, speaking about resilience, about how one unseen moment of kindness can rewrite a life. He sat in the back, unnoticed, smiling quietly. Her child ran across the floor afterward, laughing freely, carrying a future that once almost slipped away. The city still rushed. The rain still fell. But something had changed, because sometimes, the smallest act becomes the loudest turning point. Sometimes, saving someone else reminds you how to save yourself. And sometimes, all it takes to change everything is noticing the moment everyone else walks past. If this story moved you, let it remind you that kindness is never small, and purpose is never too late to find. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and keep believing that even in a lonely world, one choice can light the way for many.